Never run out of battery again with the INIU portable charger, the slimmest 10,000 milliamp hour power bank that keeps your devices charged on the go. Stay powered up wherever you go. Click the link in the video description to shop now on Amazon.
Death row inmate to be first executed by firing squad in 15 years. A death row inmate is set to be the first person to die by firing squad in the U.S. since 2010. Unless he is given a last-minute reprieve, Brad Sigmon will be executed at 6 p.m. local time today. The 67-year-old will be taken to a death chamber at Broad River Prison in Columbia, South Carolina, and a target placed over his heart. A hood will be pulled over his head, before 3 volunteers armed with rifles simultaneously fire bullets designed to shatter on impact with his chest. Sigmon was sentenced to death for battering his ex-girlfriend's parents to death with a baseball bat after she refused to come back to him. He had also planned to kill his ex, but she escaped. Only 4 other people have been killed by firing squad since the death penalty was reinstated in the U.S. 49 years ago. Sigmon said he chose this method because he felt the other choices offered by the state would be worse. His lawyer Gerald Bowe King said Sigmon didn't want to pick the electric chair, which would cook him alive, and feared a lethal injection would be just as monstrous following a series of issues with this approach over recent years. If he chose lethal injection, he risked the prolonged death suffered by all 3 of the men South Carolina has executed since September, 3 men Brad knew and cared for who remained alive, strapped to a gurney, for more than 20 minutes, Mr. King wrote in a statement. The lawyer said South Carolina does not release enough information about the lethal drug, which was also behind Sigmon's reason to avoid it. He does not wish to inflict that pain on his family, the witnesses, or the execution team. But, given South Carolina's unnecessary and unconscionable secrecy, Brad is choosing as best he can, Mr. King added. Death by firing squad has been used to punish mutinies and desertion in armies, as frontier justice in America's Old West, and as a tool of terror and political repression in the former Soviet Union and Nazi Germany. In recent years, however, some death penalty supporters have started to see the method as a more humane option. If the shooter hits his mark, death should be almost instantaneous. Why does South Carolina have a firing squad? South Carolina introduced a firing squad option as it struggled to find alternative methods to execute death row inmates. By the beginning of this decade, the state's supply of lethal injection drugs was gone, and no company would sell more except anonymously, which was not allowed at the time. Judges would not set execution dates if the electric chair was the only method. 13 years elapsed between executions, and cases of death row inmates started to pile up. A Democratic lawmaker in South Carolina suggested a firing squad if the state was going to keep capital punishment. Supporters cited U.S. Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor, who wrote in a 2017 dissent that, in addition to being near instant, death by shooting may also be comparatively painless. Sigmon has been close to death before. He had execution dates set 3 times, but each time it was when the state didn't have lethal injection drugs, and judges halted his death warrant because he couldn't choose that method. What crime did Sigmon commit? Sigmon battered his former partner's parents, David Lark, 62, and Gladys Lark, 59, to death with a baseball bat to death in 2001. He was furious his ex Rebecca Barber wouldn't come back to him, and that Mr. and Ms. Lark had evicted him from a trailer they owned. The couple had been in separate rooms at their Greenville County home, and Sigmon went back and forth attacking them until they were dead, investigators said. Sigmon then kidnapped Ms. Barber at gunpoint, but she escaped from his car. He shot at her as she ran, but missed, prosecutors said. My intention was to kill her and then myself, Sigmon said in a confession typed out by a detective after his arrest. That was my intention all along. If I couldn't have her, I wasn't going to let anybody else have her. And I knew it got to the point where I couldn't have her. Can his life still be spared? For Sigmon's life to be spared, either the U.S. Supreme Court or South Carolina Republican Governor Henry McMaster must intervene. His lawyers have asked Mr. McMaster to commute his death sentence to life in prison. They said Sigmund is a model prisoner, trusted by guards, and works every day to atone for the killings he committed after succumbing to severe mental illness. No South Carolina governor has granted clemency to a prisoner set to be executed since the death penalty was reinstated in 1976. Since then, 46 men have been put to death in the state. The state Supreme Court has been issuing death warrants every 5 weeks. 2 more inmates are currently out of appeals. They will also get to choose between lethal injection, firing squad, or the electric chair. Get in touch with our news team by emailing us at webnews@metro.co.uk. For more stories like this, check our news page. Era. More, Brit facing death penalty, hangs head in shame for smuggling ecstasy into Bali. Era. More, pilot and passengers wrestle teen, armed with shotgun to floor of plane. Era. More, Donald Trump reveals limits on Elon Musk's power for the first time. Never miss the biggest stories with breaking news alerts in your inbox. This site is protected by Ray CAPTCHA, and the Google privacy policy and terms of service apply. Your information will be used in line with our privacy policy.